Kawhi Leonard and Greg Popovich reportedly finally met face-to-face last night. Yeah, see, look, very good. The meeting happened out here in Southern California, and while neither side has tipped yet exactly what was said, clearly a key agenda item was that, Kawhi has let it be publicly known he does in fact want out of San Antonio and would prefer to be traded to Los Angeles, specifically the Lakers. Now, we should note that ever since that news broke, there have been leaks from the Spurs side that Pop is still hoping to repair the relationship. Obviously, the team had envisioned Kawhi as a Spurs lifer like Tim Duncan, and from an even more cold-blooded asset management perspective, this is a former Finals MVP and a two-time Defensive Player of the Year who hasn't even turned 27 yet. Those do not grow on trees, especially in San Antonio, which does not tend to attract mega free agents. And let's also remember, Pop has done this repairing thing before. Just last summer, LaMarcus Aldridge wanted out of San Antonio. Pop told him he wasn't trading him because he simply didn't think he would get value for him. But Pop also told LaMarcus that he would bend and change to make Aldridge more comfortable, which he did. Now, of course, Kawhi Leonard is not LaMarcus Aldridge. There has clearly been a serious fraying of trust between Kawhi and the organization over the handling of Kawhi's injury, to the point where, and this was just a fascinating detail to me in the story that Ramona and Woj reported out last night, quote, Leonard has told confidants that he did not want to sit down with Popovich and has been purposely difficult for the Spurs to reach recently. There's also this. Unlike, say, Kyrie Irving, when he asked for a trade from Cleveland, Kawhi is only tied to San Antonio for one more season. He has an opt-out next summer, so he has leverage that if the Spurs don't either fix things with him or trade him, they will lose him for nothing. And by the way, that's also the leverage that will help Kawhi steer where the Spurs trade him if they do. Of course, technically, the Spurs don't have to care about where Kawhi would prefer to be traded, and ESPN has reported the Spurs are, quote, not inclined to help the Lakers at all. But at least at this point, any other team besides the teams in LA who make a trade offer to try to get Kawhi would have to view him as a one-year rental and would accordingly have to limit what assets they offer, while, say, the Lakers, assuming they'd be getting Kawhi long-term, could ostensibly offer the Spurs a whole lot more. Now, there is a wildcard team in here, the Celtics, who are so asset-rich they could give up quite a bit, certainly more than the Lakers, and still have so much left over they wouldn't feel like they were risking their whole future. The idea would be to just cross their fingers that if they can get Kawhi in the building, they could spend the course of the next season convincing him to stay. It's good, Danny, right there. By the way, that is, of course, the gamble that the Thunder took on Paul George last summer. But we don't know if OKC's gamble actually worked yet. And even if it did, it may not work with Kawhi. So, now what? Well, the ball is in, as they say, the Spurs' court. This has long been one of the NBA's most savvy franchises. And we will all be watching to see how they solve one of the most challenging situations they have ever faced. And Ramona, I guess the first step is, can this relationship be repaired?
Yeah, I've always thought it can be repaired in the sense that they have $219 million they can still offer him. And I know everyone I've talked to with Kawhi's camp and people close to that situation said he's beyond the money at this point. Like, he just wants to be in a place where he's happy and he feels like that's going to be LA. But it's $219 million. It's a lot of money. And I think that there are things in terms of repairing the bond between Kawhi and Pop that can be said that would help to repair that. One, there has to be an acknowledgement that he was undercut all season long by putting it out there that their doctors had cleared him and he wasn't playing and he had his own group. I mean, I think there can be a public acknowledgement that goes a long way towards repairing some of that relationship. I think it also really hurt Kawhi that it was always put on his group. When you say his group, that's his agent and his uncle. His uncle, who was a father figure to him after Kawhi's father was murdered. So some of that has to be repaired. I can't tell you 100% that his uncle was at the meeting yesterday, but I know they were all in San Diego. His uncle was in San Diego. He was expected to be at the meeting, so I think he was. But those are bonds that can be repaired. Also, this in terms of how the injury was managed. If your quad is still hurting you, and what the Spurs are telling you to do is not helping, and you keep saying it still hurts,
right?
Okay. Somehow you have to acknowledge that it's not like he's making that up. If it still hurts, it still hurts. And so I think there's a lot of things that can be said publicly after this that can help repair that relationship. I don't know if they're too far gone, but I do think there is a way.
Do you think they're too far gone?
No, I don't think anything in the NBA is irreparable. One of the things we know, a great truth about the NBA, is it is a dynamic place. What is true today is never true tomorrow, next week. And that goes for the relationship between the Spurs and Kawhi, and also, I would only go to Los Angeles.
Yep.
Danny Ainge has a great power of persuasion. I mean, if indeed this is irreparable, I don't believe for a second that the Spurs are over a barrel and only that team will be in the conversation.
Yep.
Let us not forget that Kobe Bryant in 2007 demanded a trade to the Chicago Bulls.
Very publicly.
When he told a couple guys in a parking lot, get a Bulls jersey, fellas. And again, this is a really dynamic league. Nothing stays the same. Nothing is static in terms of opinion, situationally, and in terms of teams' ability to sell guys on different visions.
I mean, look, I said it all the time about Kobe, especially when I'm talking about the Kyrie Irving trade. And the difference there is Kyrie did have 2 years left. So you really can say to him, guess what? You're just not going anywhere. You're not going to give up 2 years of your career sitting out, and Nike's not going to let you give up 2 years of your career sitting out. The 1 year, the fact that Kawhi can opt out next summer, does create a lot more tension and does force the Spurs to act if he's really not going to stay, because look at his contract. Yes, they can offer him the $219, but there's been reporting out there that unless they just came straight with it, he was going to feel, again, another layer of disrespect.